to Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. Today we got a special guest here again, Charles Rogers.
Yeah, you would.
Charles Rogers, I want to welcome him to coming in here. Appreciate him. Y'all always love hearing from him. I want to go ahead and but whoso shall offend one of these little ones, which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he would drown in the depths of the sea. We need to also know that we need to learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, and plead the case of the widow. Okay. Hello, Charles. How you doing today?
Well, still hanging in there like a loose tooth, of course.
Uh-oh.
Kind of had another bout with the, um, with bronchitis there. So just bear with me, and I'll see if I can squeeze an hour in without hacking. But,
yes. We appreciate you coming in, and wanted to ask you some questions because you done said so much information already, right? So I want to see how this connects to who you spoke of before. I know you told a little bit about the Richard Jewell, but I want to know more about how the Nancy Schafer and all this ties in together. Okay.
Well, of course, from my experiences growing up, from that family over in Marietta, once I got to Murphy and working up there's one thing that happened when I was, from the first day I started working at Electrolux, which was on the 23rd of July of 1996. And of course, the only condition that I would ever consider doing any type of work in counterterrorism or anything was like that was in the event that they decided to postpone the July 25th, 1996 terrorist attack on Centennial Park to my daughter's birthday on the 27th. And that's what I had met and told the FBI down in Pace, Florida, before I even went up there over the activities that was ongoing down there in Andalusia, Alabama, with a particular family down there that was tied into the pornographic material of minors and children aspect with this group as well. So once I got to Murphy, of course, my first morning at Electrolux, we didn't have a service department manager at the time. And Doug McRae would come over every morning and hang out with Charlie. I guess they were like best friends and knew everything, who worked there and all that. And, Doug was part of this. So during various conversations we would have, because it's funny what people will tell you just to see if you'll go run into the law and start running your mouth. So you have to sit there and sort a lot of this out, and try to separate the facts from the fiction. Is he telling the truth about this, or you know, is he lying about that? You always have to sit there and wonder when people that sit there and they tell you they did this and they did this,
Right.
because these aren't the type of people that you can ever really expect the truth out of anyway. Because I've had people ask me, "Well, don't you think they might have been baiting you?" Well, of course. That's why you have to sort through this mess. But um, once I was able to finally sit down and speak with Eric Rudolph's mother and his sister Mara,
What was the mother's name? I've got.
Pat Murphy.
Okay, Pat Murphy.
hmm Because remember, at first, everybody thought I was lying about that question that he
Right.
had asked me once I told Tom Flanagan. And you really can't blame these people for having that kind of doubt. Well, wait a minute. This doesn't sound like Eric. I knew what they were thinking. This sounds a little too far fetched. Something that Eric would ask him.
Would but the
Before
thing
I
about
before I told Tom that, I could see he had confidence in what I was telling him. But
which
once I explained it to
to
him,
whom to whom?
Tom,
Okay.
Tom was Pat Murphy's friend who convinced him to come up there and move to that area to begin with.
Oh, okay.
And he would come in the Waffle King and Murphy all the time. So we'd sit there and drink coffee and sometimes cut up and tell jokes. And of course, I worked there part time. It was very strategic to do so. And that kind of gave me another upper hand taking on a part time job there, and picking up easy rental as an upholstery cleaning account right after I got up there, because it gave me a advantage to get things done secretly without them knowing what I was getting done to shut down that large number of terrorist attacks that I did. But one thing I was told was the Child Protective Services um, was their best supplier of child victims for their sex trafficking and ritual home abuse and homicides.
Hey, can I remind you right quick also to click on comments and you'll be able to see the people that's writing in there to you?
hmm So anyway, they so I start checking into it, and I had already had some very familiar with sex abuse because I've been advocating against it since 1989. I tried to get it cranked up in Cobb County, and of course, got hit with threats. I went and did some fundraising for this um, little cheap magazine that was produced up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, at the last of its program, and just to get the experience in fundraising, which of course that was the same people I also went to work for to make some side money, telemarketing for the Cherokee County Sheriff's Department in Georgia, for the Bulletproof Vest program. And of course, stopped the June 3rd, 1997 bomb attack at the ball ground Little League baseball game. So that's why I've always had um, positive outcomes in Cherokee County, Georgia. Anytime I'm had any um, run-ins with law enforcement up there. they've always worked out in my advantage. Because I'm, really wasn't much of a troublemaker or anything. Um, Growing up, I would be the one, you know, that tried to be the last one to throw the punch instead of the first one. So, when Doug was taking credit for that, it started becoming apparent, um, because the day after the Centennial Park attack, I was
Right.
in Blairsville, Georgia, at the Huddle House where I had worked at back in 1989. Um, After I had worked with Dennis Egglewood at the Waffle King in Blue Ridge.
How
So that's
far is
how,
that? How far is that from each other? For the two locations.
around 26 miles.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, Fannin
Peggy wrote.
County and
Peggy wrote you. That's why I said you might want to check and click on comments so that you see when somebody comments because she told you hello and stuff. So
oh yes, hi
I don't
Peggy.
want you. Yeah, I don't want you to have to miss when somebody asks you a question, or then that way when you look down and you see that somebody made a comment or something like that, I wouldn't have to interrupt you. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Well, it's like I posted. I think it was earlier today that they're on Facebook just to get send my greetings to Pat Murphy and at Rudolph's sister Mara. That I still think about those ladies and pray for their welfare all the time because once you sit down and you talk to people, people like them, um, they got their beliefs. Some may differ a little bit than yours,
Exactly.
but that wasn't how we sat down. We sat down to shoot straight with each other, and the truth came out.
Yeah, about the question that he had asked, right?
Well, not only that, you know, once I'd sat there and told her about his involvement in the homicide of Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and that question is what come up from their homicides um, that almost got him killed by his own mother.
Yeah, and it's sick and twisted that question. Asking if asking you right that question,
Yes, ma'am. If
and it's sick and disgusting.
Well, it is very sick and disgusting. Um, it's just I've said it enough. I prefer to say it for court, but I'll say it one more time, and so somebody don't want to have to go back and listen to the videos before, so they'll understand. This will be my last time saying it on this channel. But he did ask me if I sucked the blood from a dead boy's um, penis.
See, isn't
So,
that
and he
not sick
lied
and
to his mother.
disgusting?
He lied to his mother about that. So she figured it wouldn't do her any good to ask him about John Bonet because she knew he was her water skiing instructor. So the day that I went to the courthouse in Birmingham, I got there after he struck his deal with the um, with the prosecutors in the court.
And that's Birmingham, Alabama, right?
Yes, ma'am. And that's when I got to finally meet Richard Jewell, which really he went back to his birth name of Rick White, and that's how we partnered up and buddied up and all that. Once he found out that it was me that advised the FBI, once I took on the case for the governor's office in North Carolina, to make him the media spectacle, to keep the media attention away from Murphy, North Carolina,
Yes.
because that's what they always wanted to do, was draw media attention to Murphy, North Carolina, to crank this stuff up. They wanted this race war, Civil War revolution to start there in Murphy, North Carolina. So once I went over and shook his hand and tried to apologize to him over him having to go through that. He did. He said, "You don't even have to apologize. If I had to do this all over again to help you stop another large number of attacks like that, I would be happy to do it again."
Here's a picture of him right here,
Well,
Richard Jewell.
if that's the case, Rick, you don't want to get me started on the children aspect of it. And he was like, "The children aspect?" And I was like, "Yeah, what they do to children. You know." So we start hearing Pat back in the holding area outside the courtroom. Louis Free had granted her final access to go back there and talk with Eric. To give her the, like, he thought was going to give her the last grieving moment with her son. And it was no last grieving moment with her son. I mean, everybody in the courtroom and out in the lobby where we were at could hear her screaming at him.
She's lucky. He's lucky to still be alive after the mother overheard that kind of question coming out of his mouth.
Well, there was 3 families up there that knew to him. That was at Six Flags on July the 4th, 1997. And they was like, "Well, wait a minute. What would have happened if he's ran across us there?" Oh, he would have told you. Told us? Oh, we'd have had to report him. And they realized that they probably wouldn't have been told because of that. Or if they did at the last minute, their children would have, if they didn't get injured, their kid would have at least witnessed the carnage. So they were not happy at all. So it's funny how the truth always works its way out there when it comes to the word of the mouth advertisement,
Yes.
because that's what I built my business practices off of when I reinvented myself. Um, One, if you do a good job in performance, what your client's going to do, they're going to put out a good word for you. And it applies in cases like this, because it's one thing just to jump up and say, "Well, I'm just going to go do my civic duty," versus being dragged into this mess.
Right.
Um, that has always been the reason why I would pull through this somehow. Our Heavenly Father guided me through this, is the only really truthful way that I can explain it, because I had some help out of other people um, on the attacks that I couldn't stop myself.
I think
So,
it's kind of weird, like the time when you actually went up to a preacher's house and he turned you away. That was kind of crazy.
Well, I'm still probably registered as a member of Eastwood Baptist Church because the only time I went back to church after that to any of the churches in Marietta um, was in Alabama when I was married to my first wife. We went to church all the time.
Where were you at in Alabama, if you mind me asking?
Well, I was living in Evergreen, community of Paul, Alabama.
Is that in southern Alabama or where?
Well, we call it LA.
Lower Alabama.
Got downtown, the big old busty town of Brooklyn, Alabama down there. Don't blink your eyes, you might miss it.
Yeah, that's like in the bottle too, It's like they said that's a little bitty dip in the road or something like that. You'll miss it.
Hmm. But anyone who goes down there and drives Brooklyn Paul Road off of Brooklyn Road, and hear the account that I've described on the previous um, podcast, just how if you ever get up behind somebody a few car lengths back behind them, you can't even see what's in front, except a picket fence going straight ahead. You assume that the road is running beside, you know, that fence all the way, and it don't. It makes a left just right after this driveway. Excuse me, with a brick mailbox. That's owned by Willadine Rawls, the widow of Grady Lynn Rawls of Grady Rawls and Sons Construction.
If y'all heard this story before, y'all understand why I'm laughing at this part.
Because the same automobile that I've witnessed Mike McLaughlin, um, who later became a magistrate for Cobb County and just retired this year, was that Golden Brown 1970 Buick Centurion with a black underlayment painted on the bottom. I think he inherited from his uncle that got killed in the Vietnam War,
Wow.
if I remember the story right.
So since he came from originally from Tennessee,
Knoxville,
so
Tennessee.
Knoxville, I wonder if his uncle was up that way too.
Well, you got to figure Knoxville. Knoxville's not too far up the road from Robbinsville. And it's really not that far from Murphy when you think of it. And of course, Andrea Strassmeyer lived in Knoxville, Tennessee before he became wanted by the FBI. Questioning. And Blair Adams, the guy who messed him up on the July the 4th, 1996.
There's a Blair Adams up there
There's
in
that back up there
Canada,
in
right?
Vancouver, in Canada, at that large shopping mall up there. He was murdered there in Knoxville, Tennessee, because with Strassmeyer and them there, of course, Keith McMahon, Eric Rudolph, and a lot of that bunch. Keith's parents lost him over this mess.
That's a
And his
shame.
mother had always said, Rusty's sister, I'm trying to remember her name. Any other time I could tell you because I guess this cold medicine doesn't help a lot. Marty always said she would never stand for her son to do that with women and teenagers, children. She'd as soon kill her son if he got involved in something like that. Well, she wound up losing him on the account of that. And
But he was trying to not to do that or something that was going to back out of the deal or something like that, wasn't he? When they went to go do what they did to him.
no, not Chris. Now Blair Adams,
Yeah, I'm
yes.
talking about Blair Adams. Yeah, that's where I'm going
Not
at.
he,
Blair
but
Adams.
Blair Adams. Yeah, he took the money that they sent him to plant the device in the central heating and air system to disperse this poisonous gas,
Oh my.
where the customers was caused a stampede of customers, shoppers running out the doors, and they were going to mow them down like rats with fully automatic machine guns. It was going to be this huge mass shooting.
Who were they going to try to portray that they were though? Because usually when they do this kind of stuff.
The Aryan Republican Army.
Okay.
Okay. The Midwestern Bank Bandits.
Okay. Thank you.
So
instead of who they actually were, they were trying to put the blame on somebody else.
Oh, of course. That's why after they arrested Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols, that's when they switched over to the Army of God, which I call the Army of Godless. And all my documents, cause so many people up in Murphy always said, Charles, just always put parentheses for us, LESS, there beside God, because that is what they are. They're godless. So that's why I would usually refer to them as the Army of Godless. So,
yeah, it's a very good idea.
mm-hmm. But everybody knows when you mention Army of God, just saying Army of God, they look at a lot of people know that that's pretty bad because remember all parties that we mentioned. These are my accusations. They're all presumed innocent till proven guilty in the court of law. But this is not a case for civilian courts. This is a case for military courts.
Right. Would you end up like military tribunals and stuff, or what?
Mm-hmm, that's what it requires. And Rachel Hunt, she's about to be put in a pit. She's going to pretty much have to set everything up for the special convention of the General Assembly.
Yeah,
And we
that's
already know
Governor Hunt's daughter, right?
Yes, ma'am. She's lieutenant governor, and he's the one who swore me in his place to go negotiate with suspect Mike McRae to get that truck bomb number 14 out of Murphy that afternoon after the successful attack on the new women's health care clinic there in Birmingham. We shut down their operation by getting that hydrogen bomb surrendered over there at Cook Ridge the night before the Birmingham attack.
It's kind of crazy where they had it hid out too, right?
Well, it was really still going to point back towards El Miller, and it was going to look like that one state governor went up there and had part to blow up another state governor.
Oh boy.
With a truck bomb. Because what do you do when you have one governor, one state, go and blow up another governor of the state north of it for deploying the National Guard into the region to arrest his friends that are like family he grew up with. You know, here he was, governor of the state of Georgia, Zigzag Zell Miller. And here was his best friends right across the creek there, right there in the community of Brasstown. They had the hydrogen bomb. They were the ones pretty much carrying out the majority of the attacks, besides, with and sometimes without Eric Rudolph.
And I'm sorry, every time you talk about that hydrogen bomb, and I just picture the first time we started talking about that and how that one guy was a cross dresser.
Yeah, Joey. Well, I always figured that someone like that was in a comedy would come out with a scene in the movie doing a spoof on this, with him calling, going to the phone booth and reaching up his shirt while he's calling 911 to report a bomb in the park in Murphy, North Carolina. I mean, in Atlanta, telling them, well, there's a bomb in the park. You have 30 minutes, I figured someone would sit there and either do that scene then or when he called back after the search for Eric Rudolph began and told him that the army of God is not an army of one. I mean, if I was going to do a spoof on this, I'd have a scene with him, dressed up in Pam's negligee with that brown wig and their stockings and garter belt and pinching his nipple. Calling that in if I was in the entertainment.
Oh, my. Oh, man. He fell asleep with that lingerie, and then she ended up coming in, and then like, what the heck?
No, it's her boyfriend and his boss. Dennis.
That caught him. Oh my gosh.
Well, his dad and stepmother, they had, Valerie had enough of the guy. 25 years old, trying to, they all worked for Dennis at the Waffle King and Murphy. And here in Dennis and I were great friends. And when I first day I met Willard, we were like instant friends. And nothing's ever changed about that. It's just dadgum his son. Everybody loves Willard, but not everybody loves that son of his. He's just got that arrogant attitude and just if it wasn't Willard's son, I'd have probably already at least knocked him out. If it wasn't for the fact he was his daddy's son. But his daddy wants him to face the consequences for his actions. We've done talked about this numerous times.
Right.
As well as his neighbors and anyone else involved. But so he wound up moving in across the road because Dennis lived across the road from them there on Flint Hill Road. And Dennis, he always would like to come home and take him a shot of Tour liquor when watching the news and just kind of unwind before he went upstairs and would jump in the shower and clean up and go to bed. So he had just bought a fifth of Jack Daniels. And anyway, he only had drank 2 shots out of it the evening before. So he goes to work. Joey's living at his house because Willard finally kicked him out. He had to go.
You're talking about Joey Davis, right?
Yes, ma'am. So he well, no way the same won't stop here, but anyway, he he came home the next day. Joey was off, and he went went walking in the kitchen and saw his empty bottle of Jack Daniels sitting on the kitchen counter there. So he was like, "Well, dang. Well, so much for my 2 shots of liquor." So he decided to go upstairs. So he goes up and he looks in the room where Joey's supposed to be at, expecting to see him in there passed out drunk. Well, he wasn't there, so he wondered where he wandered off to. Then we went walking to the master bedroom. Lo and behold, what did he see? Um, this new thing called Josephine.
Yeah, dressed up in that guy's girlfriend's negligees and stuff.
Yeah, if he didn't have on her negligee, he'd have been naked. So I asked Dennis time when he told me that. I was like, "Well, dang, Dennis, was he trying to look all sexy for you?"
Well, I don't think that would still impress him much, as his girlfriend would.
Well, yeah, not to count in 2012. I don't have the case number with me, but anybody can call up there to the clerk's office. It was working at the Huddle House up in Andrews, North Carolina. And one night he was off. He went up there like 3:23 in the morning, if I remember correctly. He pulled his automobile over to the gas station part of that building that was separate business, but you could still access the restaurant from the convenience store part of it.
Still talking about Joey Davis here, right?
And so everybody saw him pulling in his black Thunderbird and park over, past the gas pumps in front of the gas station there. Put on a mask, got out of his car, come walking in the front door, pulls out a gun, points it at the waitress and said, "Give me all your money now." And I think she was like, "Oh my God, Joey, put down the gun." And he was like, "I ain't Joey," lowers his voice, "I ain't Joey." It's like, "Joey, what in the world do you think you're doing?" He looks at him, points the gun at him. "Well, I ain't Joey." And they're like, "Joey, put down the gun." Customers sitting over there knew it was him. They're like, "Joey, think about what you're doing, man. Put down the gun." No, he was still persistent. So where he got the money to buy that automobile, I understood, was he participated in a bank robbery with the Midwestern Bank Bandits. So that also dubbed him as the Midwestern Huddle House Bandit.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So, um, so this, there's some perks in the case. It's a terrible case, but there's some funny points you have to look at to help keep your character up without it driving you insane. It's that bad of a case.
Right.
There was this 14-year-old girl. Well, she was 12 years old when she started taking her water skin instructions from Rudolph.
This is very important, y'all, so pay attention to this, all right, please?
Because he worked for Zell Miller and Shirley Carver over at the Brasstown Valley Golf Club. And he also did some handyman work through Murphy Building Supply and Cook's Carpet and Flooring, all owned by the Cook family there in Murphy.
And y'all know Eric Rudolph has a palm makers.
Well, he had also helped remodel Jimmy and Rosalind Carter's house down in Plains, Georgia. He had also
the gridiron, right?
Work, yes, for David Ralston, who later became the Speaker of the Georgia General Assembly.
And he was also, like he said, Like I said, he was also John Benet Ramsey's ski instructor as well.
Yes, ma'am. He was her water skiing instructor, and he remains one of the 15 suspects in her homicide. Um, Fred is no longer a suspect, my brother, because he died. That's the only thing that clears him.
But
But
still,
no,
when he partly was part of it, even though, you know,
well, I regret that, but my cousin Robert Beach, he's still alive.
yeah, the one that lives in Florida, supposedly Florida.
Mm-hmm. Well, he has a place in Florida. He's got no telling how many places he owns.
Yeah, that's a lot of them. They got so many different homes in different states. You know, you might say, well, such and such is over there in Colorado. No, you know, you never know. He had a house in Tennessee, he had a house in Michigan, and you know, John Ramsey, he had houses all over. You know, so you
Well,
never
I
know.
imagine they did the same thing to Virginia Guthrie that they did to Beth Ramsey, Matt Darrington, and tried to do to me on numerous occasions. And of course, best friend Paula.
Okay, Paula. I was trying to think of what her name was.
Yeah, and that was to chase us into a large truck, and now probably like Paula, that's what happened with Virginia. She wound up hitting a bus instead of their designated truck, which it could have been her designated bus out there where she was at. I don't know. That's just speculation, but that's my opinion.
Right.
But you can sit there and look at uh, the report on the Beth Ramsey and Matt Darrington incident, and you could tell that that truck deliberately hit them. That
Right.
that was a deliberate um, crash, and that they were being chased.
Just like
They
John
told
threatened
me.
him.
Hmm. So back to the teenager from up there in North Carolina. She grew up in Atlanta and was a figure skater. So Eric started teaching her skiing lessons when she was 12 in 1994. So in 1996, since he determined he's going to go out and do all this stuff, and he never intended to get killed, that he was going to sexually abuse as many young girls and women as he could.
Eric Rudolph was?
Yes, ma'am. So he started out with her, then he moved on to at least um, three other of his female water skiing students, and even said that he did the same thing with John Bonet.
Oh, sickening.
So I go to Huddle House, and that's who I see is this couple sitting over eating dinner, guy with gray hair, and this blonde sitting over there with him. And which he wasn't as gray haired back then as he was in the view of the public.
Can I guess who it is?
Jeffrey Epstein.
Yep.
So of course I met Jeffrey 1984, the same evening before I met the Count BB the Chombo everybody calls Benjamin Netanyahu in Atlanta. He's from Boston. And grew up here in the States. And that is pretty much who's got control of the gridiron is the Mossad. So that's why we have what we have today. Everybody wanting the files tied to his plane and his island when really what happened before 1998 is the details that the public really deserves to know, which is all this mess that I have stated in the other videos.
And for y'all to come and watch the different videos at YouTube that he
Mhm.
has done or just come to my Darlene J. Clark's YouTube channel and then look under Charles Rogers. And then he's got a file specifically just under his stuff.
Mm-hmm. See, the problem I think with Trump is, and which Trump, all he had to do was just come right out and just release the files. Everything would have been all right. Because I'm totally supportive of making America great again movement. I really, um, I'm really on the movement side on a lot of issues. Um, but I'm not on the Make America Greater asshole movement because that's what we're starting to see that I'm not starting to like as a president that doesn't want to release the entire files of the Jeff Epstein case because it ties over into the Eric Rudolph case. And when you get in there, now you're talking the Oklahoma City Centennial Park attack case and my appointment as governor of the state of North Carolina.
So a lot of that too, it's still got to be opened up by some of these other people, and then some of these other people still had destroyed a lot of this information, but he said for them to release it.
Well, but he sat there and, you
But
know,
but I really think we ought to move it elsewhere, on that,
mhm. Well, one of two things has happened. He's either been compromised with the assassination attempt or it's Washington Mania, uh, like WrestleMania. Um, it's all, please excuse my language, but a shit show. It's one of the two. And this is the opportunity. Everybody's saying, well, Trump's going to drain the swamp. Well, the immigration issue, I can understand, you know, being needed to be addressed. But the draining the swamp is what the American people are wanting.
Yeah, but they got to also, it can't just be him. It's got to be the other people uniting with him to help make sure he gets it done instead of all the different blockages he keeps running into for the people that's supposed to be helping him.
And all he has to do is say, well, I'll just turn it over to Charles Rogers. Then he's done it. I'll drain the swamp. Because to drain the swamp, you have to pull the plug on the black hole there in Marietta, Georgia. That's what they call it, the military industrial complex. And that is the Lockheed Martin Dobbins Air Force Base and Naval Air Station. You pull the plug on the black hole, and all the crap from Washington comes flowing right on down the sewage line with it. And the swamp gets drained.
I can
Well,
imagine. I can imagine though. It's got to be done in a way because it's so vast and so big that if a lot of these bad ones, it's so vast, like I said, but they got the money and the power and everything, and I think it's a matter of safety because they still got a lot of the power. Um, and they could automatically start a war against all of us, since they got the money, power, hunger. If they know that they're going to be in the line or whatever. So you
Well,
got to be kind
I
of
believe
smart
that
to
they
be able to
will.
take it in sequences and do so much of this and so much of this. You can't just go zone in and say, okay, everything's going to be swept out right now because it's so vast. It's going to take steps.
Well, I'm confident that once it gets to the point, people are calling up, Marietta attorney Alice Summer, for example,
Oh yeah.
asking her, okay, Mr. Summer, was your daddy named Jim Stubbs? And then ask her what happened to her daddy. She's probably not going to want to talk about
It's kind of like with Bentley had ended up writing you recently and saying, "Well, I didn't think any of this really was. What was that exactly? What Ed Bentley had told you?"
Oh, he didn't know any of the people, so he doesn't know his niece. He doesn't know his second cousins, Fred Bentley Jr., Randall Bentley Sr., and of course Fred Bentley Sr., who's deceased now, his daddy, George Bentley's first cousin. Um but this is the family. This is where it all began with me. This is how I got wound up being dragged into all this mess. Was because of her daddy putting me in the tub with her, and her 8.5 months younger than me. Okay. And then trying to get me to do more conduct with her again for the second time the following year after I turned 7. So they could, take pictures and photo, film it and sell the film on the black market and use the pictures to set up and frame my daddy for it and send him to prison. And then we're going to bust the lid on the whole thing wide open then. Because now you're talking the organ harvesting of children, sex trafficking, international arms and weapons dealings with Jeff Epstein.
Yeah, that's what Edward Bentley Jr. did, right? He was cohorts with him on that, right?
Well, everybody's going to say why Beth Ramsey and Matt Darrington and her friend were killed. They're going to understand that with God on my side, I've been the hardest target for these people. I have built, like I told the Cook family I would, to get that hydrogen bomb surrendered over there to the ATF that night, that I would push serving as close as 5 years in Cobb County Jail I could. And I would not have to worry about getting beat up nor sexually assaulted when every one of them were terrified of going to that jail. And the reason for that is it's worse than prison when you get in Thunderdome. And if any of these guys that have messed with children, murdered children the way they have got in there, we already know what, if they get in general population, what's going to happen to them. And even if you put them in segregation with the other sex offenders, they'd want to kill them too. So the only safe place for them would be isolation. Well, that some of them would much rather die. Some of them would much rather die than being sexually assaulted by a black guy or a group of black guys, because they're the ones who would probably that have the biggest problems out of. So go figure. And that's why it is where it is. It doesn't matter how much money you got. It's who you are and what you're guilty of. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to pull over Smyrna, Georgia sometime, go in there some evenings in those Italian restaurant bars over there and start meeting people that's worked for the Home Depot Corporation for years and ask them about the old truck bombing attempt on the corporate headquarters. Because this is something even Craig Owens, the sheriff of Cobb County, still wants to try to hide from the public is the executives, the CEO of that corporation in 1997 were the founding CEO and executives.
And they were going to go ahead and not get their staff out of that building, right?
They were going to kill 203 of their employees in that truck bomb attack.
Basically, so they could get access to the kids, huh?
That's right. And they'd be these philanthropists and adopt these children and secretly use them as sex slaves and sex traffic them.
During the camp crumb and harvest, organ harvesting and all that stuff, hunting parties.
Nah, they send them to law school, get them degrees, and put them up in some high position in business or a law firm. Um, and put them in charge of the state bars.
Okay, instead of killing them, they'll go like that. No, track them. Just like the other Bentleys are. They're got that big old law firm there in Marietta.
Well, you look at the Georgia State Bar. After going to the Judicial Commission back in 2000, 2005, I had to go give a deposition against Judge Mike McLaughlin at the Georgia State Bar. I didn't think I was going to make it out of there alive.
And it's a shame when Mike McLaughlin would not give y'all a restraining order against some of these people, too.
Well, that's because he was involved. I was a witness against him since I was in the 8th grade, for that homicide he was committing for Sheriff Bill Hudson and the Bentleys. So look at what they did with him. They made him the dean of magistrate court.
Yeah.
So people know the corruption's out there, but they don't know who all's corrupt. But they know a lot of who are corrupt, in their counties. And this is how they set up their system. This is how they infiltrate the government with their people. It's all by blackmail. And everybody knows that Jeffrey Epstein was a blackmail artist. Very, very good at what he did. And, I guess President Trump decided if he just released, stuff on Jeff Epstein, that the stuff used to blackmail him would be released. Well, it would cause the domino effect. Because when you got Hunter Biden hanging out over there at the Brasstown Valley Golf Club where Eric Rudolph worked at, them going over there and hanging out at Big Ray Duncan's house there on Lake Chattooga, where the Ramseys were staying at during the summer of 1996, instead of in their own house, lakefront house, They lent it out and just stayed with Jeff Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, uh, excuse me, Big Ray. Since John Bonet was going to die that year.
Right. And he said that they was gonna kill her on the or have her killed on the anniversary of Jill Robinson's death.
Yes, ma'am. So that 1970 Buick Centurion outmaneuvered it in December 1983. Exchange Parkway there along Interstate 285 avoided that delivery truck collision. But the second time he chased me down in Evergreen, Alabama, he towed it out down there. So you're going to have to bear with me a second. I'm going to cut this short. Thought I could try it in less than an hour. But Rick White, he got it with Nancy Schafer. Excuse me. And we went after Child Protective Services. So that is why they're dead. My buddy Sam Evans with Easy Rental, who helped me stop a lot of terrorist attacks, died from a heart attack. He was working out of the Forest Park store at that time.
I'm going to go ahead and show people the thing for Joe Robinson again right quick. All right.
I'd let them research it. And I don't think that was from natural causes. More with Richard Jewell.
Let me go there to the Nancy Schafer. I also seen it. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, like I said, I'm going to have to cut her short.
Here's Nancy Schafer right here. She's a former member of the Georgia State Senate. She was an American politician and conservative legislator who served in the Georgia State Senate from 2004. She was actually killed from a gunshot being shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not at liberty to discuss that case because it's currently still under investigation by the state of North Carolina. It is not looking like a murder suicide.
Was he also? Yeah, somebody cannot commit suicide and be shot in the back of the head.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just going to leave it at that.
Maybe next time when you come, we'll finish up and you feel better. We'll talk about the timing with the TPS investigation. You know.
Well, we can cover other state senators out in Oklahoma and Missouri who have also been ousted from life over this and have tried to expose Child Protective Services. But everybody can understand that I don't plan on committing suicide.
Nor I.
And I don't go speeding down the road in the rain if or when I drive, okay, like I'm in a hurry and got to get there before everyone else, you know, especially in the rain. Um, so if I wound up in a crash with a big, large truck or a bus, because it's the same thing that my friends, Beth Ramsey and Matt Darrington told me that that's not going to be an accident. If that happens, they finally succeeded after, I guess, 40, 40 years, 42 years trying to get rid of me.
But to continue to pray for your safety and well being.
Hmm. But I need to get out here and get well and get to feeling better. And I'm just going to start training again. And I'm preparing stuff to get back up North Carolina to get the ball rolling. So here in a couple more weeks, I'll start releasing more documentations to the public that they can go in and view on the latest updates in the cases that I'm filing myself in court. But anybody in Atlanta can go to the Fulton County State Court and see the responses that I've made to Casey Libby and the frivolous tort that he filed against me on the behalf of Roger Nance. And I don't want to put out the case of Mr. Kisses yet until I get my file. That way, everybody will know what county is also involved with Cobb or counties that is involved in some of these shenanigans in Georgia besides Murphy, North Carolina. So
It's a wide array of that, you know.
it's pretty bad. It's like I said, it's through favors and blackmail. You know, they have infiltrated every establishment, really. They've infiltrated law enforcement, the judicial, the legislative. Um, you know, as far as we can see, the presidency. Um, and if this is happening in more than one state, um, this means everybody's got a problem in every state if we're having these kind of problems in Georgia and North Carolina. Now, I don't know how prepared the American people are for this. A lot of them aren't even going to know how to react when they do, because who are they going to turn toward for security? The same government that's been trying to kill them. I mean,
Where you
you
think I'm
know,
afraid? Well, you think I'm afraid to go talk to a lot because I don't know who to trust. You know.
well, you don't. You know that's why I'm still alive, and that's why some of these guys, people are dead, because nobody likes being lied to. Um, they've gone out and they've told people that I was an informant. Went and got some guy busted for selling, trafficking marijuana. I come picked him up. Well, I went and broke in his place and stole him. No, wait a minute. That's right. Other way around. I stole from him. That's right. And then turned around and ratted him out to the police. That's right. And that they wanted to recover the goods and go bond him out. That's what they were telling people when my daddy was dying in the ICU at Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta when they tried to get rid of me, 3 times before he passed away. They did not intend for me to attend his funeral. And of course, my brother and Roger Nance almost got killed then. So
Yeah,
it's a fragile,
it was
it's a
part of
fragile thing when you start dealing with people like this bunch and certain members of the Dixie mob that knows about this, because it's like they don't even want to be involved with this bunch.
right.
It's like they're subservient to this bunch. So at least a lot of these guys got some code and honor like some of the mafia up north. But these people, they have none whatsoever. They have no dignity. You call them a devil, you call them Satan. It's like a compliment to them if you call them a lunatic. They, they love it when people do that. It's like they feel good.
It makes them know that you possibly fear them, that they'll be able to keep control over you, so to speak.
The ones that stand up against them normally wind up dead. It's just that plain and simple.
Yes.
You look at what they did to Blair Adams up there in Knoxville, Tennessee, because he didn't go through with them in what he was supposed to do for the attack on that shopping mall.
That was very sadistic the way they did him.
Mm-hmm. And here's Terry Nichols, rotting away in a prison when he actually did more to screw up the attack of the Alfred P. Murray Federal Building than he did participate. But the moment they let him walk out of prison without a new identity, he'd be dead. Because of what he did to, that almost messed up that attack, thwarted their plan.
Yeah, they want payback for that.
No, that's why when Blair Adams did what he did and drove all the way down to Knoxville, Tennessee from Canada, after going to Washington and trying to get with the FBI, his only option was to go to Knoxville and try to return the money and all of his savings to them and hope that they would let him live. He knew that he had screwed over the wrong people. So they used my brother Fred's tire thumper for his dump truck. The big, 5-foot pry bar. My dad's, we used the heavy equipment on his development, especially that when they were in Woodstock. And that's what they sexually assaulted Blair Adams with and goaded him with that big old pry bar. And Fred, big old boy. A lot of people,
Fred's your brother.
a lot of people feared my brother Fred. Fred feared me unless he had Roger Nance along. Then he had no fear. So, and Roger Nance knows, I don't have to worry about my parents, nieces, nephews, or any relatives getting upset at me, even if he was to come with my cousin Robert, and I wound up taking Robert out. So it's instead of Fred being around and coming up about between Charles and Fred, it's really against Charles and Robert now. And so, in loving memory of my cousin Wayne, his brother, I'm challenging my maternal family and to this. Robert stated that yes, they poisoned Wayne, but it wasn't with ethylene glycol. So that tells me, yeah, they murdered Wayne, but it was with ethylene glycol.
Here's a picture of Wayne right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's his graduation picture there, I believe from Sprayberry High School.
Well, I hope that you have a good day. I appreciate you coming in, and I hope your cold and your stuff gets better.
Mm. Well, I hope this wakes up enough eyes that they start putting the word out. Those who do check out these videos. Um, um, here this week we'll go ahead and release the case number on Mr. Kiss's case. That way people can start seeing who he's already suing.
Yeah, they just keep trying to push it up under the rug, and it's been so wrong for them to try to do what they did to the three of y'all.
Well, we're not. I promised the cooks up there in Murphy that I would get up at least, not then
Excuse
until
me.
30 officials in Georgia, not necessarily just in Cobb County, but the Georgia State Bar and other places in Georgia that was tied in with them. And so that's we got 2 counties so far. That's Gwinnett and Cobb. And so my request to the people that are thankful for what I haven't done is start checking out what's going on in their counties. See if they can help provoke a coalition for children chapter in their county. They can register on their own, set up their own fundraising programs. I don't want a penny of it. Now, if I have to come to a place and give a speech and stuff like that, I would like, coverage for my expenses, coming out and giving a speech. But I know how the nonprofit organizations, a lot of times they get into this, they wind up getting infiltrated.
Yeah, you're
So,
talking about also doing a coalition in North Carolina sometime, right?
yes, we're hoping to have a conference up there after the first of the year. This is another condition of the agreement to surrender that hydrogen bomb, was to have that convention where they could go turn themselves in at a VFW or American Legion, you know, ones that I'll state to turn themselves in, which will include Andrews, North Carolina, and go into the um, branch commanders and surrender for escort to that conference to sit up there and confess to their crimes and their motives for committing the crimes they committed. Now, Matt McRae, nephew of Doug McRae, he said he'll be there. And I don't think he's got the guts. I really don't. I don't think there's a man enough bone in his body to, be a man up. Do the civic, no, really not civic duty, but the duty he owes his family, the duty he owes his loved ones that don't know what he's, that all don't know what all he's all about. You know, um, yeah, he could be a man and actually go to that conference and admit to the crimes he's committed and, you know, turn himself in and take the punishment for his crimes.
I don't see Roger Dance doing that, or John Ramsey, or any of them doing that, really, though.
Yeah, the most feminine part of a woman, of the female anatomy, is probably going to be proven to be more manly than all of them put together.
That sounds a lot.
So, I know any of them still want to come up and try to co-cock me, or more than welcome to. They can bring 2 or 3 of their buddies with them, and we'll see how it works out for them. But really, are they man enough to man up for what they've done? Alice Summers' dad was such a coward that he had to point a gun at me and tried to shoot me. So Officer Bill Galloway, who followed him all the way from Marietta up there to Morganton, Georgia, that day in June of 1975, to point his gun at me and execute me so it would be death by, officer and parent and ranch hand, because they all 3 put bullets in him.
Yeah, and you were not even a teenager yet, right?
No,
ma'am. Not even an adult yet.
Yeah. So I had, I had to take that injection to get past that to where I could start focusing on my grades, and I'd be damned if they didn't put me in a Christian school the following year with a religious mixed education after I went from top student, all my other grades, to the bottom student the beginning of the following school year.
So the shot was an MK Ultra or what?
Well, it was designed for, the veterans of Vietnam to help them get past their post-traumatic stress disorder, what they called shell shock back in the day. For going into battle and having to deal with the trauma, to forget the traumatic experiences that caused the trauma to begin with.
I had a couple therapists around here that suggested I take that, and I said, no, I don't want to forget, because the thing is, I need to remember so that I could get the word out. I don't want to forget. So no matter how much it hurts me, I've got to, I don't want to forget, just because I would like to forget. I wish it didn't happen. Don't get me wrong. But in the aspect of how can I really help others if I really forgot it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, when they see all these cases and these warrants that was issued on me by Mike McLaughlin, I want everybody to understand just exactly what kind of coward I think he is, because I don't think there's a country in the world he's going to be able to go to unless it's Israel.
And not only that, because there's been some pictures of him. How he looked back then when you knew him as a little kid, when you seen him with that one guy. He
Frank
looks just
Floyd,
like whom? Who does he look like?
the I-70 serial killer.
Yeah, the I-70 serial killer. Yeah.
Yeah, the 1981 homicide of 28-year-old Mary Carter. Um, People who live in Cincinnati ought to be raising hell at the Cincinnati Police Department and asking them, what the hell is your problem? It's a no-brainer when you look at the composite sketch of the guy who abducted her and her two children. Is that being a Frank Floyd? And that's who was with Mike McLaughlin the evening I met John Ramsey over there by Leighton Graphics and Tip Top Poetry. Was Franklin Delano Floyd going by the name Bill Ramsey. But Frank, he was also a member of the Midwestern Bank Bandits, Aryan Republican Army. And him, John Ramsey, Frank Sheldon, Francis Duffield Sheldon, and Doug McRae, they're Marble, North Carolina, were
Here's
all
how he looked
involved
when Bill
in
Ramsey.
her homicide. According to McLaughlin and them, he's the one who actually murdered her during her assault. Was Mike McLaughlin. But it happened at Floyd's house that he was renting there in Cincinnati. And they were all drinking and doing drugs and all that stuff. Now, John had arrived after he got there to his place with her, and she was about to leave. John pulled in and was able to keep her from leaving with her children. But at least they let her daughters live.
But her daughter saw the murder, right?
Yes, ma'am. So, let's keep those, ladies in our prayers that, that they'll see his picture and be able to recognize him as the one who actually murdered their mother there at Frank Floyd's house.
It's an older picture of Judge McLaughlin.
And yeah, it's a more recent photograph of him. But when they see the composite sketch of the I-70 serial killer and how he looked back then, I don't think they're going to have a problem in the world identifying him.
Yeah, I was trying to see if I had that picture. I'm like, I don't think I do. I got the Route 29 Schafer, but
I think you put it in some of your other videos.
yeah, I probably did.
You did.
Yeah, they just got to go back and look at it. Okay, here's where the murder of Mary Carter, right? Is this the one you're talking about? I got that one.
Mm-hmm.
Let me show that right quick.
No, the one I'm talking about is the I-70 serial killer. But the homicide of Mary Carter, the composite sketch, you can tell is Frank Floyd. And you look at the I-70 serial killer, you can tell it's Mike McLaughlin.
Even with how he looks with his face today, how McLaughlin looks,
Mm-hmm.
But y'all go back in there and watch some of the other videos that's under, in my files that says Charles Rogers, or AKA Blackstone Lawyer, and that's his videos. There's so much information there. But y'all might want to actually have a pen and paper and jot down different areas, like everything relating to John Ramsey, okay, his kids, da 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 da. Who all this that worked around him, who worked with him, and such.
Well, there's just too many people that knows about John Ramsey and his friendship with Jeff Epstein.
Ain't that
Um,
right?
what a lot of people don't know is the locations of the other Ramsey's residences.
One was in Michigan, right?
Ma'am.
One was in Michigan, right?
Yes, ma'am. I think Illinois or Indiana. John's a billionaire. Except when they want to talk about, all this stuff come out the murder of his daughters about broken. Really, not hardly. Uh, it might have broke one piggy bank, but it didn't break all of them.
No,
It
because
was
he was still vice president of
Lockheed Martin.
exactly. So how would he be able to go broke there, right?
Oh, right. And it was all planned out. That's why after her murder, he was living back in his house in Atlanta. It was like, boom, he's gone from Boulder. Now he's in Atlanta.
Huh.
So it'd be hard for Boulder to question him about her murder if he's in Atlanta. So he had 5 years to plan it out and prepare it out, just like he told, Beth he would. The only part of his vow that he wasn't able to come through with was having me murdered before her death, John Bonet's death. Because he had made the remark, I might live, he'd probably let me live a couple of years, but they were going to get to me eventually. And here I am, and Patsy's dad, you know. Um,
They also have a thing that says 6 people at 5 different scenes search for I-70 serial killer. So there was different people involved there.
mm-hmm,
Oh, I found the one right here, Unsolved Mysteries. That
uh-huh.
looks, here is McLaughlin here. You could tell it's him. Excuse me. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me get this up, show everybody. It's actually on Unsolved. Let's see. This one down here at the bottom right here. This second one here.
Mm-hmm.
This one right here is Judge McLaughlin, right? Yeah. Right?
That's what he looks like to me. That's the way he looked when I first met him.
Yeah, even when you look at the older picture of him, when you go back and look at it, you can still see the uncanny resemblance there. So let me go back to um, Judge McLaughlin today. Basically, I don't know if it's today or not. Okay, let me go back over here.
Well, according to him, those were
Close that one out.
witnesses that had to be silenced. People that were capable of putting people in prison for the rest of their lives is the reason why he went out there and him and his colleagues went out there and killed them.
So when you looked at that picture a few minutes ago, pay attention to this nose. You know how big it was, right? With his
Mm.
eyes and his mouth and everything.
Well, I hope this reaches Miss Carter's daughters.
And we got the same long face shape and all.
Mm-hmm.
Eyebrows. Yep. Because I had seen the picture before that you showed me. And he is still got what kind of record is it that Judge McLaughlin got over there because of that mailbox thing, right?
Yeah, but they don't keep those files that old.
Okay, I thought they still had something on there about McLaughlin that was still in a case over there.
No. Um, no, the case that I'm talking about would still a case on him would be the I-70 serial killer case, the Mary Carter case.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right there, just in themselves, and and of course the charges I intend to bring against him in the state of North Carolina on the behalf of the state of North Carolina, which is for um, um, being a member of a paramilitary secret society, um, uh, seditious conspiracy and treason. So all these charges carry the death penalty. Same for John Ramsey. If Jeff Epstein was still alive, same for him. Anyone um, who was involved in this and has tried to hide their part, you know, um, you know, they're all going to go down for treason. The case of Mary Carter, I would just like their daughters to have closure to who all those individuals are who murdered their mother. I'd like them to have their closure. Because till this day, they probably don't know who murdered their mother.
Yeah, that
And
is
as
so
far as
sad.
unfolding, I think a lot more child murder cases that I am not familiar with in these investigations might. We're just, I'm just about confident that we'll get more answers out of the Daphne murders of Libby German and Abigail Williams because their the method of their deaths executions matches up to the other victims in the cases involved in the Oklahoma City and Centennial Park bombing case. So next time, this will give me a chance to do a little bit more research on the Midwestern bank bandits and the banks in the order that they were conducted. Um, but I think it'll be a no brainer the reason why they were able to locate these banks was because of Zell Miller, Shirley Carver's family in banking knew the precise banks that they could hit and get away with what they did because it's like the June 18th attempted truck bombing of the Home Depot corporate headquarters there in Vinings. Um, I have spoken with um, people that work there, and they know that their bosses were the ones involved in that. And the plot was to pin this on white supremacy and the Christian identity movement, they called it. That way, it was going to be, you know, the Mossad versus Christians, the modern day Pharisees, the Antichrists, and uh, wanting to fulfill the book of Revelations for us and pull it off because they are atheists. They only adopted ultra Orthodox Judaism, just to be a religion to identify to make people think that they do believe in God, and the philanthropy that they do and engage in and help for their communities and all that out of the goodness of their heart is their,
Excuse me.
being devout Jews, you know.
Stomach.
I mean,
Yeah, and it's not just, it's kind of crazy how they're at Bentley Farms, how they have that one church over there, and then trying to
well,
say that they are really Christians and they're not against a certain race and all this other kind of stuff, like a cover up.
the Northside Family Planning Services attack was a diversion attack for DeVry Institute of Technology, which was located there on West Paces Ferry Road, down the road from the governor's mansion. They're in a community called Buckhead, right down the road from the Ramsey's house as well.
Wow.
Well, when they got over
The
there
list
that
goes on and
morning,
on.
after they attacked the abortion provider, they got over there to DeVry's campus, and campus security was already on lookout. So they go to the next school, was a hub school back then, as Pace Academy today. The city of Atlanta was sitting there waiting on them. So they didn't even bother going to that Jewish school where Paces Ferry Road runs into and turns right and becomes West Paces Ferry Road. Because they knew once they arrived at DeVry and they were on alert, and they went down the street to the Hubble School, they were on alert, that it was a waste of time to go to that Jewish school. So, those were their they were going to hit 2 targets that morning. Those were the 3 options. And even Jewish students, even though the Hubble School wasn't a Jewish school, a lot of Jewish students attended that school. So it kind of appears kind of like with the Holocaust. They were willing to sacrifice some of their own in order to accomplish their agenda for the New World Order.
Yes. Well, I hope you get you some rest, and I'm so thankful you came in here and did a lot of talking and was able to clear up some aspects. And we could continue on another time about the different ones that were targeted um, when all this was trying to be exposed, trying to shut everybody down. In other words, that
Well, right
is
now,
affected with the CPS and all.
mhm. Well, right now, like I said, all parties that we mentioned, based on my accusations, they're all presumed innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. But look at Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons and Atlanta United soccer team. Him and Bernie Marcus, they were commanders of the IDF during the 6-Day War in 1967. That's why they wound up with the higher positions than Ron Brill and Ken Lagone, just being the higher ups. So they got their free pass with Les Wexner and Larry Fink and all to come over here and open shop. And then, of course, they turn around and found the scalawag up there in New York by the name of Jeffrey Epstein and dragged him into their stuff. And
The
I'm
list
not
goes
going to
on
mention
and
names
on.
of other Jewish members of the Jewish um, community of Cobb County, because I don't think I have to for the people of Cobb County to sit there and probably make the same conclusion I have were involved. And this is our chance to make America great again, if you want to put it like that. But it's really looking like their term of MAGA is making America greater assholes.
I'm really like what's been going on with the Trump. I'm really looking at it in a different way.
Hmm. Well, the moment he bombed Iran, because I don't perceive Iran as a threat toward the United States whatsoever, it's like with the Democrats. They need to keep their business out of the family business. It's not up to the government to determine that they can override a parent's decision and have a you know child less than 18 years of age go through gender reassessment surgery.
Yeah, I don't think if you're born with something, that's what you should stay as.
Well, yeah, I don't think any parent has that right either without, you know, um, if we were going to go out and do anything like that to a child, would it be thrown under the prison?
Yeah, if that would have been us, we would have got into a
Yeah,
lot of trouble. That
locked the doors and threw away the key.
Yeah, if it would have been reversed, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I appreciate you for coming in, and we're going to go ahead and close this out today. And I hope that you have a blessed day and stay warm. And keep yourself from getting sick, because I know with you where you're at in that location, you don't need the dampness and stuff that's coming your way right now with it being so cold in that area.
hmm well, that gives me time to work on my legal cases and just get that much more documents ready and released to the public.
Okay, well, I appreciate
Because
it.
once it's filed in court, it's in court.
Yeah.
Um, and it's starting to sink in with a lot of people now that I am who I say I am, and what my intentions really are. Because the money they have defrauded from us, and we take these people down, would pretty much clear the debt of the American people on their mortgages, their car loans, their student debt, student loans, and credit card debts.
Let's hear from you as well, Carlene.
By seizing their assets in itself. Because why are we subjected to pay for a deficit? Okay. To a central bank and financial system who decided they was going to wipe out 2/3 of the world population.
Exactly. That's with the Georgia Guidestones that said that, right?
That's right. They can't hide the evidence anymore. They can't hide the history of the Jekyll Island meeting anymore when they set up the plan for the Federal Reserve Act and their mission and goal for this new world order, because we see what they're doing to people on the street drugs. Now it's time to go after them for their drug, which is adrenochrome. That is their drug. So I hope everybody has a good evening. Miss Gonzalez and um,
Rika
um,
came in, and
highly,
Sheila.
I highly
She,
approve of what you're going to do tomorrow. And Miss Sheila, thank you for coming in and listening in, and
Rika
everyone
Whirlwind come in.
else. It's nice to have y'all in the program. Get more educated. That's what the key is education, awareness, spread it. Um, my mission and goal would see a coalition in every county and every state to get this word out and educate people and set up programs um, for the legislation that doesn't exist, that needs to exist, to not only get these people brought to justice, but to bring to justice any family member that they may have brought to justice that is it just has the audacity to go out here and sexually abuse children.
Yes.
Whether or not they're involved in this, it shouldn't matter. Only way we're going to clean this stuff up is we all have to do some soul searching ourselves. Who in our families, if any, that is guilty of these type of crimes, of just sexual abuse? So if we expect our government to straighten this mess up, we need to be willing to help straighten some of this mess up within our own
You do.
family. And thank you, Miss Peggy, for joining in. And
She got a lot of evidence that's going to help her case, so we think and pray for her as she's going through this hurdle.
mhm. I encourage people, stop listening to these prosperity preachers. Get on your knees in prayer and get all your answers from our Father, like Jesus instructed us to do.
Amen.
We can't do it any other way except through Him, because He came and provided the way, and that is the only way
The truth
to
and the light.
salvation. Is going to our Father in prayer, because He's the one who has the final say so on everything. And you cannot go wrong going to Him in prayer. Even if
Amen.
you're an atheist and you don't have a faith in God, try it out. Go to Him in prayer to show His existence. He'll show you His existence. You will find His existence. If
Amen.
He did not exist, I'd have probably grown up being a cross dresser.
Oh, no, not.
Probably been an atheist myself. But I flatlined twice, and I can personally say from both experiences that I met our Father, and I also met who we refer to as the Lord Jesus Christ, which is not His name. His name's Yeshua. But do as He instructs. Give it a shot and say, what am I going to do this Christmas? Well, I'm going to do what Jesus instructed us to do. We're the disciples. We're going to break bread. We're going to have communion and do the way He instructed. Heck with all this other crap, because all this other crap is the deception and all that these people are pushing on us. They're using these preachers, these big old fat, wealthy, prosperity gospel preachers. They're all pro-Israel this and pro-Israel that. And all they're doing is they're getting the fat check, selling books, making money. And they do not care about your nor my salvation any more than they care about anybody else's, because it's all about that money.
Yeah.
So, it's time for America to wake up and start returning to its original foundation as a nation based upon true Protestant concepts, and start breaking the ties of these traditions that these perverts loves to see us engage in, because that's what makes our children more vulnerable to grooming and being taken advantage of, because Satan's got the friendly face. He looks like the angel of light. And he knows how to entice every child there is. So bear in mind to that. So if you really want to build a relationship with Jesus, then you're going to listen to him in his instructions about how he wants to be remembered and honored. Not what Kenneth Copeland says, not what the Pope says, not what anybody else says. What did he say? What is his instructions? And it's very simple. I'm going to quote it one time here on this program. You know, the book of Hebrews, chapter 3:7 through verses 4:11. And say what either Priscilla, Apollos, or Barnabas wrote, who actually wrote the book of Hebrews instead of Paul. And see what Jesus expects us to do as far as he said in his own words, keeping the commandments. So everybody, I hope you all have a blessed evening, and I look forward to having another podcast, if not before Christmas holidays, after the Christmas holidays.
Yes.
Because don't want to upset too many people over my anti-Christmas, perspective. Well, that's because I've always, from my experiences, I was told what to believe, what truth is. So at least I'm being completely truthful.
Yes.
On that
Well, thank
aspect.
you. I thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
You get a lot done, and you achieve the goals that you're trying to get. Okay, you see what Carly just said?
Yes. But if you can, please give me about 45 minutes before you do, where I can get recuperated here.
You're taking a
Everybody
deep
have a good evening.
breath. Okay, well, thank you so much, and God bless y'all.